The most important life lesson I've learned is to be here now, so like live in the moment, because like I worry a lot as a person, and like you just can't worry about what's gonna happen in the future, or else I don't know, it gets on your mind too much, and then you don't enjoy what you're doing right now.
I think the most important life lesson I've learned is basically to treat people the way you want them to be treated. As cliche as that sounds, a lot of people come and go into your life, and it's for a reason. Either they hurt you or you hurt them, or there's some reason for them like no longer being in your life. And I think that if you treated everyone the exact way you want to be treated and they did the same thing, you would have a lot more like best friends and close people in your life. And I think that I realized that all the friends that I do have now that are close, that I can like honestly say that I love, are my best friends, are people that I've honestly treated to the best of my ability with the most respect that I possibly can give them. And I mean, I just hope that everyone like learns to do that in return for the people they care for. And I think like through my hardship, that's probably the most important life lesson I've learned.
I guess the most important life lesson that I've learned is that you can't control how other people are going to feel, especially when making, decisions about yourself. If they, affect another person, you need to make them for yourself and not for the other person, because ultimately it's going to be their decision how they react.
I was born in New Orleans, Louisiana, and when I was 1.5, I moved to Boston. And then I moved to Chicago. And when I was 6, I moved back to New Orleans. And when I was 8, I moved to Western Massachusetts. And when I was 14, I moved back to New Orleans, where I went to high school. So that's a basic idea. To be positive, to be grateful, to spend as much time in the present as possible every day, as opposed to thinking forward and thinking backwards.
I was born in Kansas City, Missouri. I moved to California, to the Los Angeles area when I was 6, and then I left there when I was 17 and lived for most of the 80s, so from age 17 to my mid-20s in Israel and Egypt. I went to Tel Aviv University and Hebrew University. I studied Hebrew and humanities at Tel Aviv University, and then I was an archaeology history major as an undergraduate in Jerusalem. I worked in archaeology in both Israel and in Egypt, and then eventually decided that I didn't want to be an archaeologist as much as I loved the work, because many people object to excavations because you can't excavate without encountering graves, and although I might not mind if it were my ancestors, many people do. So I I came back to the United States at the end of 1988, and since then I've worked primarily as an English teacher, sometimes as a history teacher through K through 12. I also worked for a film company as a researcher, doing research in Native American involvement in the Revolutionary War. The importance of generosity and taking care of the people that you love, and letting the material things slide, not worrying about prestige or position, but really taking care of the people that are important in your life.
I was born in California, grew up in Salt Lake City, of all places, went to undergraduate in Missoula, Montana, and then in the University of Colorado at Boulder, and spent a year in Europe in between those two as well. Compromise. It can never be your way or the highway. You always have to listen very carefully to everybody that you're talking with, and be aware of your feelings and your influence on the situation. It may not be right. You have to be willing to compromise.
I grew up in Kansas and went to Catholic school.
You moved here and everything?
I've did a bunch of different places in Kansas, and then here is the only places I've lived. You get whatever you put into something.
I think the most important life lesson I've learned is not to be afraid of anything. I think I've spent most of my life being afraid of things, just not taking action on things that I either wanted to try or just had the desire to do with my life. Just having fear. I think that's probably the biggest life lesson, is that there's really nothing to be afraid of, and to try different things and not to be worried about what you look like to other people, or if you're going to fail, but just to go out and try things that you actually want to do and enjoy them, even if you're not good at it. I think that would be the biggest life lesson that I've learned, and I've only learned that probably recently, which means that I've spent the majority of my life being afraid of things and not taking action on things that I wanted to enjoy or do or try.
To take life a little less seriously. I was a very focused high school student. I'm an opera singer, and I started working on it really from the time I was 14 forward, every single day. And I succeeded, which is a lot, and takes that kind of work, and at the same time I was so focused that I think I missed out on a lot of the fun things.
Yeah.
My real answer, as far as advice to high school students, is to find the things that you're passionate about. Don't pigeonhole yourself into a certain track. Don't worry so much about other people's expectations, but find the things that you love doing and are good at, and explore a broad range of opportunities.
Hated high school. It was really bad. There was nothing I could do. I went to a really bad high school filled with really bad teachers, and I felt I did the best I could. Maybe try not to work 40 hours a week my junior and senior years, as opposed to trying to do something and get something out of it, but I don't know. I'm not quite sure I could have done much about my high school career.
I would say put more effort into everything. Every game, every academic, everything. Just put a little more effort.
Oh, definitely be. Don't be afraid of other people. Don't be afraid of what they think. Don't be afraid to try things, to go after goals and dreams, even if you fail. Just to go out there and lay it all out and do the best that you can, and enjoy it, even if it means falling flat on your face. Just getting back up and doing it again. Sometimes failure is the best teacher that you can have.
I've been through a lot in my life, and so what would I begin to say? I think probably, looking back on it, I think the success, if there is anything in my life, is raising two daughters. I've been lucky to be, as I say, comfortable, and been able to change my houses where I've been able to live, and came to Santa Fe and bought a house, and now it's on the market, and here I am.
I graduated from an American high school in Brazil, and then it was my parents' wish that I go to college, and so they, I don't know if it was my father and mother both picked Iowa State College because it had a good home economics department, which they thought I needed. Well, I lasted a year, and then I went to find out what else was available, and it was suggested that I study landscape architecture. So it's hard to plan in advance when you don't know what's out there.
Don't ever stop pursuing your dreams, I would say, because I wanted to do medical technology since I was in 9th grade, and when I met my husband-to-be in college, he wanted to get married and kept wanting to get married before I went and finished my training. And in the 50s, growing up, you did not have a career as such. A woman did not have a career. Well, I didn't feel that way, that I felt that a woman should have a career. Twice my my husband wanted to get, or fiance wanted to get married, and I pushed the date back and pushed the date back until I finished school. And I was very glad I did, because then I married, and within 6 months I was pregnant. In those days you didn't really plan, you know, your family or when to start. And so I didn't have this career after all until I, well, when I first finished school I had a first job, but then I got pregnant and finished that year, and then had a baby and didn't work for 14 more years. So that's my biggest lesson in life, I think, and my father instilled that in me.
Well, I was in the Navy, and I really enjoyed that. And enjoy, I don't know, yeah, I guess. Fortunately, I guess for me, I didn't see any action. Well, I tried to treat people like I would like them to treat me. I guess that's about the biggest thing. And it seems to work. Seems to work.
That would make me 50 years old, wouldn't it? And no, at that time I don't think so. My girls were in college, and I was very fortunate and was traveling with my husband when he couldn't go. And so we had some wonderful European trips, and I wouldn't change it, and I wouldn't leave him. And I stayed married to him for about 52 years or something. I'm living a good life. So
Actually, it's interesting because I wouldn't do things differently. I divorced after 17 years of marriage because this man had the old-fashioned tradition of believing a woman's place is in the home. And I had a desire to use my brain and my talent, and I did lots of other things to, you know, with my children and growing up with them, to try to keep my mind busy, but intellectually it wasn't enough, and so I wanted to go to work, and that was not in thinking with his ideas, and eventually I divorced, and they were rough years because the boys were, I had 3 boys, and they were 2 years apart, and they were teenagers, you know, preteens and teens, and there were a lot of rough times, and we didn't have much money, but and I became very sick. I got cancer, and all these things kept happening to me, but I just kept trucking along, and in looking back, I never remember the bad times. I've always been one to remember the good things, and so, and he also didn't want to travel internationally, and I've been to 75 countries. His idea of vacation was to go to Pagosa Springs, Colorado, and I thought there's more out in this world. So I traveled, and I had my career, and I had a second career that after medical technology. And in talking with people over the years, I would say, you know, I went through a lot of bad times, but I don't remember that. I would never have changed my mind if I, you know, had a choice of redoing this. I'm very glad I did, because it opened up a whole world of travel and career and a wonderful life. So
I think I would continue my education rather than go out to work. But frankly, I think we all get the feeling that if we had it to do over again, we would have worked harder and studied more. There's no doubt about it. We didn't do what we should have. I got married in 1948, didn't we, Cook?
Yep, we did. So it's about 65 years now, huh?
Oh yeah, that many years.
had never seen the